Thank you, dear viewers, for staying with Nile TV International. We're still covering the 2025 parliamentary elections here in Egypt that started abroad. The Egypt expat vote started a few hours ago, the first of 2 days for expat voting in 117 countries around the world, before Egyptians here at home vote on the 10th and 11th of November. And all of this, of course, is across 14 governorates here in Egypt in the first phase of the parliamentary elections, or House of Representatives elections, which will witness its second phase in exactly 2 weeks from now in the 13 remaining governorates. Now with us from London is Dr. Mustafa Ragab, the head of the Union of Egyptian Communities Abroad. Dr. Ragab, thank you very much for joining us. Good evening.
Good evening to you and all to your listeners and viewers. My name is Mustafa Ragab, the chair of the Egyptian Union in Europe,
Yes.
not abroad, because there is a different organization.
Yeah, the head of, yeah, in Europe, exactly, in Europe, yeah. Not globally.
Anyway,
in Europe, yeah.
Of
Yes,
course,
Dr. Ragab, so how is the mood like among the Egyptian community, Egyptians in London? How is the mood like? How are preparations for the start of the expat vote? Of course, you will be, according to your time zone, you still have many hours remaining before it hits 9 a.m. November 7th, your time.
We have so many hours, bearing in mind that tomorrow's Friday is a working day for the Egyptian in Europe.
Yeah.
So we won't expect a lot of people going to vote on Friday, because, as I say, it's a working day.
Yeah.
Maybe in Arab countries, maybe in different countries, it's a bank holiday for them, so that's fine. But for us, we have to wait to see the real people coming for the vote on Saturday. There'll be a few people on Friday, but not as many. So we expecting people to be in numbers on Saturday. There's excitement,
weekend,
of course, and
yeah.
we have some experience now with a few elections before. But what I have to say, that every voter in Europe, I really commend them very highly, because it's very difficult for them to vote. The distance and the expense and everything they take to vote, I really commend them for doing that. Sometimes the distance reach over 80 miles in miles on north, and 70 miles in south, or maybe 100 miles in south, and they have to take transportation that costs them a fortune. But despite that, there is a few loyal people who really like to use the vote and vote for members of parliament. Obviously, the other thing is that we don't know much about the people standing for the election, so we have to try ourselves to reach out for them, not them to reach out for us. Especially, we should have some members who are standing for the Egyptian abroad, and they should really make a lot of efforts to reach out for us and introduce themselves. But it's up to us to reach out to people. We have managed to reach out for a few people, and I must admit there is 2 people from Egypt who tried to reach out for us. But we trying to get to know the people who are standing for the election and their manifesto. And of course, we advise people to be very careful when they choose the person who will represent them, the person who will hold the government for an account for all their decisions. We really hope that people will learn from their past experience and use their vote to build their country, and use their vote to build their towns as well, and to build their future, for themselves, for their children, for the health issues, for the education issues. People have to put all that in their mind and not to fall for any false campaign from anybody, and be very wise. It's a very important thing to govern the country. It's a very important thing to have a future for the country. So we hope that people will take full advantage of this and make the right choice and the right decision for whoever they vote for to represent them in the parliament. As I said, we have experience before, and we've seen people coming from so far away. I've seen a disabled lady coming from Newcastle.
Sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Ragab, but since you are mentioning this for the second time, people coming from far away. Of course, there is an Egyptian consulate in London, and there is an Egyptian embassy in London. But don't you have other consulates around the UK, around Britain? Don't you have other consulates other than the London consulate?
No, sadly, it's only the embassy, not the consulate. Only the embassy opened their doors for the election, and it's central. And that's not just for London. That goes for a lot of European capitals. This is a very important issue that we have to go for electronic voting or postal voting. I know the government is worried about false election, but this is something we have to overcome and be brave enough and use it. Because people cannot travel, and it's not just traveling, as I said, it's the expense. They spend hundreds of pounds on transportation. And I've seen a lady coming from Brighton, and when she reached the embassy, she realized that she didn't bring her ID card with her, and she was sitting there crying because despite all what she's done, she couldn't vote. And another lady...
Because many Egyptians who live in Britain don't live in London necessarily. I mean, many of them could be in Manchester and could be in other cities, right?
Even further than Manchester. People come from Scotland, people come from Northern Ireland, so it's a very long distance. And we have to overcome that by introducing other way for voting. The Egyptian abroad represent fifth of the Egyptian election power. So it's got to have more consideration, it's got to have more attention, and the people who are standing for the election have to try and reach out for those fifth of the electors around the world. So it's a big number, it's a huge number. We are 12 million or maybe more. So, and out of 60 million allowed to vote, it's a huge percentage, has to have more attention. And we need to know the manifesto and the plans for everyone. I mean, we've managed to get through to a few people, but only 2 people from Egypt managed to get through to us. So this is a very low number, and people should pay more attention. We hope that people make the right choice. We need to see our country reviving. We need to see people understanding what's happening and be sympathized and have feeling for the country and try and build this country, this great country. We came through more than great things in the last month. We've seen the conference in Sharm el-Sheikh. We've seen the visit to Belgium, and we've seen the opening of the museum, and every day we see things great happening in Egypt. So people have to keep that and keep it going and make sure that we go from success to another to build our country.
Right, Dr. Ragab, so I understood from your words that not only Egyptians who live in England have to come to London itself, but also those who live in Scotland or Wales or Northern Ireland, they can't vote in these countries. They have to come to, all of them would have to come to London. In the UK in general, any Egyptian living in the UK can only vote in London. Did I understand you correctly?
Absolutely right. Only in the Egyptian embassy in central London. And when you see those people coming from Scotland, Northern Ireland, or Northern England, or south of England,
or Wales,
I really feel for them. Or Wales, yes. You know, Great Britain is 4 countries anyway. So people coming that distance, I really commend them. I really like to hug them and kiss them and thank them for all these efforts and the expense. The transportation costs a lot of money in the UK. Some of them have to take a flight, some of them have to take a train for 8 hours. So, you know, it's really very difficult, and we have to think of a way to overcome these difficulties so we can have a true voting power for the Egyptian abroad.
But as you said, Dr. Ragab, you now have experience. You had the presidential elections a few years back. You had the Senate elections 3 months ago. So, I mean, the Egyptians in the UK are getting accustomed to this. So tell us, what did you learn as a community, the Egyptian community in the UK? What did you learn from the Senate experience and from the presidential election experience that you want to exploit or benefit from this time around in the parliamentary elections?
Look, I'm going to be honest with you. people are more excited than more for it for the presidential election.
Yeah.
Because this is what they are interested in.
This is natural.
To see
Yeah.
Yeah, this is obvious, and they know that who's the president, they know who they're voting for, they know who's keeping the country safe. But when you come to the parliament election, the people don't try to introduce themselves. So the people go and search who they fought for. So they're not the same interest as the presidential election. Presidential is something else, something so special, because people want to make sure that the country is safe, the country is going on the right track, nothing is going to affect them negative. But the parliament election doesn't have the same interest. But yes, there is a few people who have interest in the parliament election due to the reasons I've said to you before, that people don't come forward and introduce themselves, the difficulties that we face to elect. So this is something we need to look for in the future if we want to see a true voting power from the Egyptian abroad.
And finally, Dr. Ragab, when you see voters come to the Egyptian embassy in London from all across the UK, and especially if they bring with them their children, the youngsters, the second generation, maybe at times the third generation, the importance of younger generations going to the consulate and going to the embassy in London, participating in such a process, even if they won't vote and have not reached the age limit to vote, but the importance of getting, those from the second and third generations to the Egyptian embassy and to participate in an event that is linked to their beloved mother country. How important is this?
You're mentioning a very, very important issue. When children, and I'm talking about 5, maybe 10, maybe 12 years old, coming with their parents, they wonder themselves why the parents doing that, and that show them the love that their parents have for their country. So obviously that will be transferred into them, and they think my father or my mother having all this trouble, spending all this money to vote for this country. So obviously they feel for the country and they feel for their parents. And in the meantime, their parents try to bribe them by taking them onto a tour in London. So this is like the prize they get. They have a nice day in London before they go back for the long agonizing journey to go back home. So yes, it is important for young people to see their parents struggling, paying a lot of money to vote, and ask themselves questions. And the answer is love for the country, love for Egypt.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mustafa Ragab. It was a great pleasure talking to you, sir. Dr. Ragab is the head of the Union of Egyptian Communities in Europe. Thank you very much, Dr. Mustafa Ragab, talking to us from London. And dear viewers, don't go far. We are still continuing our coverage of the 2025 House of Representatives elections. Don't go away.